that.
Hold on. Our
think we
motto
should.
is that if it sounds stupid, we have to do it.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, let's go back to our phone lines and talk to Art McCoy?
Artemisian.
That is not what that
He's a
looks like.
Moogle.
Let's ask him.
Let's go to Artemisian of Midgar. Somer, what's up?
Hey, how are you guys?
Good. I'm going to call you Art for short.
That is, yes, I was going to say Artie or Art, perfectly fine, is what everybody does.
Awesome.
Where's Mognet Central? Tell me.
In my house.
Dun, dun, dun.
And tell me anything.
Wow, you do your business out of your house?
Yep.
I hope you don't have Comcast because they will not give you a business line.
Yeah, they fucking are terrible about that.
No.
Anyway, welcome to Limit Break Radio.
Oh, thanks. This is like maybe the second time I've watched you guys, and then I heard the challenge on the air just now, and I thought, well, better sit up or shut up, I guess. So
Fair enough. All right.
Yes.
Good job. You
I
have
like
more
you already.
Respect.
You have more cojones than 90% of our naysayers.
That is true. So, floor is yours. Go for it.
yeah, so one of the things I was going on about chat, and I don't think a lot of people agreed, is that I feel like Final Fantasy, since I don't know, maybe at least 7 on up, it's a game about fan service. It's a game about the repetition of things that you love. We have, like, you don't play Final Fantasy and go, if they put Shiva in there one more time, I'm going to kill somebody.
Well,
Okay,
That's
all
not
right.
what people do.
I see what you're getting at. I absolutely see what you're getting at, because there have been staples of Final Fantasy ever since 2, right? Like, you've got what are the defining attributes of a Final Fantasy game, right? Like a game that has Moogles, that has Chocobos, summons, right? Like you've got Ifrit and Shiva and all of those. They take multiple different forms, but they're not always summons. But yes,
You
they
have
those
quote unquote party members.
right. So all of those aspects, right, are things that are carried through the Final Fantasy series.
It's part of the legacy.
All the way to the current, right? But I think while you have repetition, I think you also have subversion, because while some of the details are similar, right? Every world is so unique unto itself between specifically 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. That series of Final Fantasy games really broke the mold for what you're supposed to expect out of an RPG. Those worlds were different. And I think you need at least some kind of hook like that to be able to itch that nostalgia itch without really overdoing it and being heavy-handed about it.
I don't know if I would call what they're doing fan service, because there are certain parts of the legacy that you keep, in the same way that every Mario game has coins that you collect, or a princess that you save, or something like that. There are certain staples that make it inherently
certain
Final
conventions,
Fantasy.
right?
Jumping.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think that one of the design aspects that lots of people gloss over with this sort of thing is that in an MMO, you have so many different people and personalities, and you're not here to make a quick, Final Fantasy quick, like 100-hour game. And you have to make some things very generic or make it seem like it's been done, because it has to fit what you want it to fit, because you're the blank slate character. So I think that people interpret seeing sameness as laziness, but it's a mechanic that it's a device that the tool belt of the developer uses to make the person feel like the world is a little bit of a palette.
But I think
for their paintbrush.
But I think you're right, and I think that that's acceptable when it comes to the way that we've had, like dungeon bosses introduced that were from older games, or that you have all of these other things that we were saying were more subtle callbacks. But this is almost a copy and pasting of a character or even a narrative notion from an entirely different game, and I think that's the part that feels kind of creatively lazy to us, where you have the opportunity to make new things and to, especially with so many new lands and so much new geography that's been added to the world of Eorzea, like you have an ability to expand on that, and it seems like a waste to take it and focus it on some stuff that we had before, and to outright like acknowledge that this was that this is basically what came before it. Like, you know what I mean? Like there seems like less of an homage and less of a creative interpretation of what we got, which is what I see with every iteration of Final Fantasy, right? Like, while yes, there are some character designs that are similar, or while there are some names that follow through, that it's like, well, on the SNES, they didn't just copy and paste a Bahamut sprite from 4 to 6, and that feels a little bit more like what is happening here.
There's a big difference between having like a Cid or a Chocobo in every Final Fantasy game,
right,
or literally taking the final boss, which was original to that game, and plopping him in another game.
Right.
Without
There's a
any
very
more,
big difference.
more reasons.
Without
for having
any
that.
justification for it.
Yes.
Right. Like
That's the
I
big
think.
thing.
And again, is that like it feels like at some point you need to justify it. Like having references to dungeon mobs be from other Final Fantasy games. Again, that is never something that's ever bothered me.
Yeah.
Right? Like, not to a point where I've gotten on here and really ranted and raved about it. Like, some of it, it's like, yeah, that's cute, or like, yeah, it didn't really do much for me. But this seems far more egregious than it was even one expansion ago.
Yeah, I agree with you, Art, on what you were trying to say about wanting to make sure that all of your players feel like they maybe have a stake or that they relate to something. WoW did that really, really well when it would put the spotlight on these major lore figures, and you were just like another soldier in the army, right? But I think what they're trying to get at is that when you just do it selectively, when you do it here or there, like, Crystal Tower in A Realm Reborn, like, that's cool.
Right.
But we're at the point now where they're drawing references from multiple Final Fantasies for major landmark content in a single expansion.
Yeah, I think that's frustrating. Yeah.
But I don't. Maybe it's because I am a Final Fantasy fan, but I don't see that as a problem as long as it's executed well. And one thing I haven't heard is that everybody here says that it's fun. So I'm having a hard time drawing the correlation between, well, it's fun, because
the mechanics are fun, but the storyline and the execution of the lore is not there.
And again, I think that a lot of people pointed out the same problem with Alexander, that while Alexander was mechanically fun, the story was somewhat uninspired. And then you had the second problem with the story is that you got it out of the fucking easy mode. So, like, it was a two-tiered problem, right? That the story was kind of shitty, and that you could get it without having to really put in the effort or time. And both of those things led to this confluence of, like, people just not really giving that much of a shit about Alexander unless they really wanted to finish off something like a piece of gear from it or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's why the nostalgia is not inherently the bad thing. Like we were saying on a previous episode, you say this is only your second time listening, but like we've mentioned before that the problem with Alexander was that, I mean, this was a thing that's been buried under Charlayan forever, and they had so much opportunity to explore the history of Charlayan, how it affected the characters in our party who lived there when that thing was in its bubble, and like how that what they lived in fear of it coming. Anything they could have built on Charlayan's lore at all, but instead they decided to give us a contrived bullshit love story instead of giving us actual lore about the world. And I think with Omega, we were all kind of hoping, okay, we've got Nero. He's like, he left Garlemald. He's going to do something with Omega that's going to have something to do with the overall Garland war. But instead now we're just getting a digital landscape with bosses from another Final Fantasy. And while the nostalgia is nice, the story is bullshit.
Right, and I think what most players had identified as Heavensward wrapped up is that getting that again, getting a substandard story attached to the raids again is, like, don't do that. Like, right? Like, I think most people had higher expectations. They wanted it to get better, not worse. And I think that, while that is an opinion about whether it's better or worse, that, they did drop the ball here, and I would say that I've seen a lot more disappointment about it than excitement. So you've got to be able to separate the excitement of the confrontation and the excitement of the mechanics and how fun they are to play versus, our analysis of what they're doing with this as on a narrative level, because that does hold as much sway as is it fun.
Right, and I think that on the point of Alexander's story is that I think that, I mean, do you guys ever watch shows on TV like The Flash or?
Oh no, you just gave Kahlo a seizure.
I actually just finished the most recent season, so let's see where this goes. Go ahead.
Okay, all right,
So
let's finish this.
It gets really old when they save the world every episode. So.
Okay.
The story about Alexander, they gave you what some people would call a difference in kind, so that it's not something necessarily that you focus on the world saving aspect, is that you focus on an idealistic story between two people where love prevails. And so that's pretty different than the Bahamut's coming down, or that's very different than that. And so I feel like you might not like that type of genre, or you might not like it inserted into where it was, but I don't think that we should discourage the development team from making those kinds of differences in story that we see or content that we see.
I agree with you 100%. And where I usually get this from is Supernatural, actually, because every season they try to go bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and you don't always have to get bigger than the last season, right? I am 100% okay with like character development stuff, like everything that's within like its own tiny ecosystem that doesn't affect the world outside it, right? So in this case, where I think the harm was done is by using FF5, or if the next one uses FF6 or whatever, that there is enough lore and there's enough material within Eorzea itself that they don't need to pull quite this much from an outside source.
You know what?
Yes, I'd expect this in an expansion 8 years from now when there's not as many people playing and they want to get people back for the nostalgia. Then totally I can see it as a ploy to get people to play, and I'd be down for that. But when there's so much of the world we haven't explored and so much lore I want to know about, why are they choosing purposefully not to tell us?
I think you know what? You guys just identified something that I think is really important.
I just want to sell more lore books. That's fine.
I mean, maybe
there was actually a comment that someone Tenor Martin made, and he said, do you think that maybe because the way that Heavensward ended, that was all original content, right? And near the end of it, a lot of people were really sick. It was kind of played out. So going into Stormblood, that maybe the higher-ups, maybe someone said, look, your original stuff isn't working. Let's start drawing on classic FF stuff that we know people love.
I don't know. I think that shifts the blame in some regards. But I think that you guys did hit on something that is, really insightful and really important, and everyone should definitely keep that in mind. It's tough. It's tough because we want the raids to be engaging, but yet none of us really know what definitively we want out of it. I think what we're all kind of hitting on here is that it's just on some kind of fundamental level, it's not really striking that chord that we want out of it. Is it mechanically fun? Yes, but it's gotta satiate both of those. It's gotta live in both of those worlds, right? It's gotta satisfy on the story end as much as it satisfies on the is it fun end. And yeah, I can't help but continue to feel that this was just lazy and phoned in. And again, if we had more content that fleshed out things in Eorzea or things that were specific to FF14, maybe I'd feel like it was justified. But looking at the grand scope of it, we've got this, and then we've got Ivalice, and those are two things that take the focus away from Eorzea. I'm interested in Eorzea. I'm not interested in going back and fighting shit in FF5.
Exactly. And all of their promotional material, I've noticed for 14 has been join the rebellion, fight back, take back all Amigo. That's been all their promotional things, but then all the sub content is totally separated from the world. Even Doma, everything else has been completely separated from the rebellion against Garlemald at all. And it's almost like you're in a bubble where it doesn't exist.
Art, let me ask you this. So imagine the Omega raid, instead of using, characters from this folk tale from FF5, instead if they had taken, folk heroes or folklore tales that Omega had learned from all of the different, aura tribes from Doma, right? You could then keep the same sort of story you have where he's creating this tournament to, find out who the most powerful being is, but at the same time, you're still
get a little more history.
Exactly. You're getting history and lore about Doma, about FF itself, and then it doesn't seem as disconnected like Aniro said.
And again, I think that is another common complaint
Also,
that I've heard of.
People are saying we learned nothing about Alamiga. Okay, give us the fucking old monk kings and shit, and tell us about that.
I don't remember hearing shit about that. That was all the setup that we were given throughout 2.0 and 3.0 through that one guy in fucking Ul'dah, right? We got all of that backstory about Alamigo and
the two monk tribe things.
Yes, exactly. And then it's not even talked about. It's not even talked. Yeah, you go to the land and it's not even a fucking reference. What?
Toss it aside.
So I think two answers to that. The first answer is that about replacing Eorzea with Final Fantasy V is that there are some people, you guys might not be complaining about it here, but the vast majority of their players would if they didn't get a callback. So I think that's something.
But again, there's a way to do it, and it's not in the main raid.
There's already so many fucking callbacks everywhere else,
And I'm not saying that I don't necessarily agree or disagree with you, but I'm just saying that there would people.
I was feeling that too. I did say that earlier.
The people that expect fan service, they would go, "What a great opportunity did they miss to give us?"
No, I don't agree.
I don't agree. I was the one sitting here saying all the other Final Fantasies have gotten throwbacks. I was really excited that 5 was finally getting one. That was my opinion for sure. But I also think that it would have been better. I think Ivalice might be able to do it well. Crystal Tower, making it its own world that you can tie in to FF14's lore. But throwing in FF5 in such a contrived way, while cool. Well, doing it again doesn't. I don't know. I wish they would have been able to tie the and make it more references rather than being literally we're taking Exdeath from 5 and placing him in front of you. More making him part of our lore somehow would have been way more cool of a throwback and a reference than literally plucking him and dropping him.
And again, when we talk about what we knew we were going to be getting with Stormblood, you could have thrown all of your throwback references and all of your external to Eorzea references. You could have thrown all of those into the Ivalice stuff, and no one would have complained. I don't think you would have gotten anyone complain if you had no references to an external Final Fantasy throughout the entirety of the 4.0 expansion. I don't think you would have gotten a single complaint. I genuinely don't, because everyone's already bracing for what this Ivalice thing is going to be. Again, we don't know if they're trying to fit Ivalice somewhere into the world, but the Omega tells me no. Omega tells me
literally it's going to be okay, we beat Omega trial mode, and so now you're going to go to the next level in a different world. We have no fucking clue if we're going to be literally teleporting ourselves to Ivalice or if Ivalice is a part of the lore. No idea.
Exactly.
What's been the most celebrated raid in FF14 so far?
Binding Coil of Bahamut.
Art, would you disagree with that?
Well, I have to come clean and say I could never finish that one.
But did you do them? And did you?
I'm a baddie, and I could never get the mechanics down.
That's fine. That's fair.
But okay, were you one of the people sitting there bitching about wanting an easy mode?
No,
or did you think that the rating was cool? It's just I don't have a group where I'm not able to learn this stuff.
I'm just not able to learn it, so I said it's just not for me.
That's fine. That's fine.
The general consensus seems to be that Binding Coil was when rating was at its best.
Right. Okay, so do you agree, now, even though you haven't done Binding Coil, do you agree that is the prevailing opinion in the FF14 community, that among the 3 raids, and granted Omega's not complete,
or even the side raids too.
Yeah, among the raids that we have access to in this game, that the best one and the most well executed was Binding Coil of Bahamut. Do you agree with that? That is the general overarching opinion of the FF14 community.
Of the resources that I watch, yeah.
Okay.
What callbacks did Binding Coil do? What fan service did Binding Coil do?
Are you kidding? It's in the name. It's Bahamut.
Right. Just
fan
his
service.
name.
But just Bahamut, that's it.
Right.
But I will
Exactly.
say
And
there is
Bahamut-
a callback one that was good and has been done right.
Oh, well, it's
Ozma.
okay to call back when it's good.
Because look at
No,
Ozma.
that's not
from
what I'm trying to
FF9, right?
say.
That's what Ozma is from. And
Yes.
the thing is
That's
that
a great
Ozma-
example.
No, Ozma was a great throwback, right?
Yes.
It's a big fucking
Exactly.
circle. We knew it's from FF9. However, it completely tied in to the lore
Yes.
of the game.
Yes.
It swallowed up cities in actually
Yes.
in the game, in our lore. So we all knew it was from FF9, but it wasn't literally like, this is the Ozma Zidane fought, here, fight it now.
Right.
It's like, this is actually part of our character's world history. That is how you do a reference.
And that's the important part, is taking
Yeah,
a
that's
reference
the
and
difference.
weaving it into Eorzea's story and not feeling like you took it and just said, okay, here's
Copy
X
paste.
Death itself.
And again, because we don't
and
have
Phoenix.
And Phoenix, yes, but because we don't have the entirety of the context of Omega, we can't place it into a greater context in the world just yet. But if this is the concept that they're going to be going with, it seems to be not even troubling itself with having to make that distinction. Like, they're not even rising to the challenge of trying to figure out how to work it into the world lore. And that's the part that I find lazy. That's the part that I take a real issue with. You're right. Is Bahamut a callback? Absolutely. Is Alexander a callback? Absolutely. But at least in Alexander, they did try to make it its own thing. They did try to
tried.
make it its own part of Eorzea, even though there were
They could have explored
oversights.
it much better.
Right, like they could have
But they
taken
tried.
it. They could have taken it in a bunch of different ways that would have been really interesting, but they didn't, and that's okay. I don't think anyone bemoaned them of that specifically. But now that we're just being thrown into another world, and it's not being worked into ours in a way that feels justified. That's I think the bigger problem.
We just lost Discord.
Oh no.
Like,
That sucks.
Yeah, it says
Was Art on Discord?
Yes, 3 servers are unavailable due to a temporary outage.
Interesting. That's weird.
And-
Art, thank you for the call. That's disappointing.
I actually wanted to ask him, like, since he called him with a dissenting opinion, if he felt
Yeah.
we talked over him or if he had fun and if he enjoyed himself.
Yeah, no, Art, it's because Discord went out, man, like as a service. Like the whole service went down. If you want to call back, Art, we will let you call back. We'll get you to the front of the line. If you want to call back either through a landline or Limit Break Radio on Skype, we'd be happy to take that call. Because I do want to ask you if you felt like you were talked over. It's a good question. Anyway, so we're getting kind of down towards the end here of the show.
And there's a Pogo raid that's starting in a little while. Too,
Oh, really?
So, yeah, right down there. Three Bowser at our place.
Oh shit!
Aw, shit.
Oh shit!
Aw, shit.
But anyway, if there are any more calls that obviously we can't use Discord right at this very second, but Limit Break Radio on Skype 810-515-8715. Again, if Art calls back, we'll get him to the front of the line. Let's talk to Senji of Sergeant Tannis. What's up, Senji?
Hey, what's up?
Hey, thanks